10 Things That Make No Sense After 60. A Life Transformation Guide. Have you ever stood in your living room, looked around at everything you've accumulated over the decades, and wondered what the hell you've been doing with your time, your energy, and your relationships? If you've crossed the threshold of 60, that moment of clarity isn't just inevitable, it's necessary. There comes a point in life when the fog lifts, when the illusions we've been chasing for decades suddenly reveal themselves as exactly that, illusions. The harsh truth is that much of what we considered essential, meaningful, or worth pursuing in our younger years becomes not just irrelevant, but actively harmful to our peace of mind. We spend our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s building elaborate structures of expectation, obligation, and false necessity, only to discover in our 6th decade that we've been constructing a prison with our own hands. Think about it for a moment. When you were 30, you probably believed that having the perfect house, the ideal relationship, the right career, and the approval of everyone around you would somehow deliver lasting happiness. You worked overtime, sacrificed sleep, postponed joy, and convinced yourself that all this effort would eventually pay off in some grand revelation of contentment. But here you are, decades later, and that contentment remains as elusive as ever. The most insidious trap we fall into is living our entire existence as if we're still auditioning for approval from people who frankly aren't even paying attention to our performance. We dress our homes like museum displays, hoping to impress visitors who rarely come, and when they do arrive, they're more interested in their phones than your carefully curated interior design. We modify our opinions, soften our edges, and compromise our authentic selves to avoid conflict or disapproval, not realizing that in doing so, we're disappearing piece by piece. This people-pleasing epidemic is particularly devastating after 60, because at this stage of life, you should have earned the right to be exactly who you are without apology. Yet I see people in their 70s, still tiptoeing around family members, still biting their tongues at social gatherings, still saying yes when they mean no, still prioritizing everyone else's comfort over their own peace of mind. It's heartbreaking, because the clock is ticking, and every moment spent in this artificial performance is a moment stolen from authentic living. The pursuit of perfection is another soul-crushing habit that should have been abandoned decades ago, yet it persists like a stubborn weed in the garden of our minds. We've been conditioned to believe that wrinkles are failures, that a less-than-spotless house is shameful, that any sign of aging or human imperfection is something to hide or fix. But consider this: every wrinkle on your face is a testament to years. Half laughter, worry, surprise, and contemplation. Every gray hair is evidence that you've survived long enough to earn your wisdom. Every imperfection is proof that you've lived, not merely existed. The tragedy is that while you're busy trying to achieve some impossible standard of perfection, life is happening around you, and you're missing it. You're so focused on how things appear that you forget to experience how they feel. You spend so much energy maintaining facades that you have nothing left for genuine experiences, genuine relationships, genuine joy. Then there's the hoarding mentality that plagues so many people as they age. Not necessarily hoarding in the clinical sense, but the desperate accumulation of possessions, as if objects could somehow fill the emotional voids in our lives. Closets stuffed with clothes that no longer fit or suit your lifestyle, garages packed with equipment for hobbies. You no longer pursue basements full of keepsakes that nobody else will ever value. These things aren't bringing you joy. They're creating anxiety, taking up space, and requiring maintenance that drains your energy. The real tragedy of material accumulation is that it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what creates security and happiness. You cannot purchase peace of mind at a retail store. You cannot acquire enough stuff to guarantee that you'll feel complete. In fact, the opposite is often true. The more possessions you have, the more you have to worry about, maintain, organize, and eventually dispose of. Your belongings end up owning you instead of the other way around. What's particularly damaging is holding on to resentment and grudges, as if they were precious heirlooms to be preserved and passed down. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It's a toxic waste product that you're storing in the most valuable real estate you have, your mind. Every grudge you maintain, every old wound you refuse to let heal, Every person you refuse to forgive is taking up space that could be occupied by joy, wonder, curiosity, and love. The cruel irony of resentment is that it punishes you for someone else's mistakes. The person who hurt you has likely moved on with their life, probably never giving you or the incident another thought, while you're still carrying the weight of their actions like a backpack full of stones. You're allowing their past behavior to control your present emotional state, which means they're still exerting power over you years or even decades after the fact. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your mental and emotional real estate. It's about refusing to let other people's mistakes define your present reality. This doesn't mean you have to trust people who have proven themselves untrustworthy, or that you should ignore lessons learned from past hurt. It simply means you stop allowing old wounds to fester and poison your current experience of life. Living your life according to other people's expectations is perhaps one of the most exhausting and pointless exercises you can engage in, yet many people continue this practice well into their later years. You modify your behavior, your choices, your expressions of self, and even your dreams to conform to what you think others expect of you. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are so absorbed in their own lives, their own problems and their own insecurities, that they're not paying nearly as much attention to your choices as you think they are. The expectations you think others have of you are often projections of your own fears and insecurities. You assume they want you to behave a certain way, dress a certain way, live a certain way, but have you ever actually asked them? And even if they did express specific expectations, why should their vision for your life carry more weight than your own? This is your life, not a dress rehearsal for someone else's play. You don't owe anyone a performance that compromises your authenticity or your happiness. The people who truly love and value you want to see you happy and authentic, not perfect and miserable. And the people who prefer the perfect, miserable version of you aren't really invested in your well-being anyway. Toxic relationships are another burden that becomes absolutely inexcusable to carry after 60. Life is too short and too precious to spend it with people who drain your energy, undermine your confidence, or treat you with disrespect. Yet many people tolerate toxic family members, friends, or even romantic partners because they've convinced themselves that any company is better than solitude, or that they somehow deserve poor treatment. A toxic relationship is like a slow leak in your tire. It might not cause an immediate blowout, but it gradually deflates your spirit, your confidence, and your joy until you're running on empty. These relationships are characterized by consistent patterns of disrespect, manipulation, criticism, or emotional unavailability. They leave you feeling worse about yourself rather than better, anxious rather than peaceful, drained rather than energized. The fear of being alone often keeps people trapped in these destructive dynamics, but solitude is far preferable to toxic companionship. When you're alone, you have the opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to pursue your interests, to think your own thoughts without interference or judgment. When you're with toxic people, you're constantly managing their emotions, walking on eggshells, or defending yourself against their negativity. At this stage of life, you should be surrounded by people who celebrate your successes, support you through challenges, and appreciate you for who you are. Anyone who consistently makes you feel small, wrong, or inadequate has no place in your inner circle, regardless of how long you've known them or what role they've traditionally played in your life. The need to be liked by everyone is another exhausting pursuit that serves no one, least of all yourself. Trying to please everybody is like trying to be in all places at once. It's impossible, and the attempt will leave you scattered and ineffective. Different people want different things from you, often contradictory things, so pleasing one person might automatically displease another. You end up like a chameleon, constantly changing colors to match your environment, until you've completely lost sight of your true self. The mathematics of universal approval simply don't work in your favor. There are approximately 8 billion people on this planet, with vastly different values, preferences, experiences, and perspectives. The idea that you could somehow behave in a way that would earn the approval of all of them is not just unrealistic, it's absurd. Even if such a thing were possible, it would require you to be so bland and inoffensive that you'd essentially become invisible. What's more, the people who expect you to constantly modify yourself to gain their approval aren't offering you anything of real value in return. They're not interested in knowing the real you. They're interested in having their preferences validated by your compliance. This isn't friendship or love. It's control disguised as relationship. Authentic people attract authentic relationships. When you stop trying to be everything to everyone and start being genuinely yourself, you'll discover that the right people are drawn to you naturally, while the wrong people lose interest and move on. This isn't a loss. It's a filtering system that saves you time and emotional energy. Neglecting self-care and rest is another habit that becomes not just counterproductive, but dangerous after 60. Your body and mind have been serving you faithfully for decades, and they deserve respect, maintenance, and recovery time. Yet many people continue to push themselves relentlessly, ignoring fatigue, postponing medical care, skipping meals, sacrificing sleep, and treating their bodies like machines that should run indefinitely without maintenance. This approach might have been sustainable in your 20s or 30s, when your body could bounce back from abuse more quickly, but after 60, the consequences of neglect compound rapidly. A minor health issue that you ignore can become a major problem. Chronic stress that you dismiss as normal can literally shorten your lifespan. Exhaustion that you push through can lead to mistakes in judgment that affect every area of your life. Rest isn't laziness, it's essential maintenance. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity. Proper nutrition isn't vanity, it's fuel for your body and brain. Regular medical checkups aren't paranoia, they're preventive maintenance that can catch problems before they become crises. Exercise isn't punishment, it's investment in your future mobility and independence. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's responsible. When you maintain your health and energy, you're better able to contribute to your relationships, your community, and any causes that matter to you. When you neglect yourself, you become a burden rather than an asset requiring others to care for. Problems that might have been preventable. The compulsion to compare yourself to others is another habit that becomes increasingly pointless and destructive with age. Social media has made this tendency worse by providing an endless stream of carefully curated highlight reels from other people's lives. But the urge to measure yourself against others has always been a source of misery for those who indulge it. Comparison is the thief of joy, because it shifts your focus from appreciation of what you have to resentment of what you lack. It transforms your life from a unique journey into a competition that you can never win because the rules keep changing, and new competitors keep entering the race. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone with more money, better health, closer family relationships, more impressive accomplishments, or seemingly greater happiness. The fundamental flaw in comparison is that you're comparing your internal reality, complete with all your fears, doubts, struggles, and disappointments, to other people's external presentations. You know all your own failures, mistakes, and shortcomings intimately, but you only see others' public faces. It's like comparing a behind-the-scenes documentary of your life to everyone else's movie trailers. Moreover, you have no idea what sacrifices others made to achieve what you're envying. That person with the perfect marriage might have compromised their career aspirations. The friend with the impressive bank account might have sacrificed family, time, or personal health. The relative who seems to have everything together might be privately struggling with depression, addiction, or loneliness. Your life is your own unique masterpiece, not a copy of someone else's work. The experiences that have shaped you, the challenges you've overcome, the wisdom you've gained, and the relationships you've built are yours alone. Trying to replicate someone else's path would be like trying to paint the Mona Lisa exactly as Leonardo da Vinci did. Even if you succeeded, it would still be a copy, not an original. Finally, refusing to ask for help when you need it is perhaps the most stubborn and self-destructive habit that people carry into their later years. Pride, fear of appearing weak or simple. Stubbornness keeps many people suffering in silence when assistance is available and would dramatically improve their quality of life. This refusal to accept help often stems from a lifetime of being the strong one, the provider, the person others turn to in times of need. But strength isn't about bearing every burden alone. It's about knowing when to seek support and being wise enough to accept it gracefully. Independence isn't about never needing anyone. It's about maintaining your autonomy while acknowledging that humans are inherently interdependent creatures. We're not designed to go through life in complete isolation, solving every problem and meeting every need without assistance from others. The irony is that refusing help often leads to a loss of the very independence you're trying to protect. When you struggle alone with tasks that have become difficult, you're more likely to injure yourself, make mistakes, or exhaust yourself to the point where you need even more assistance later. A small request for help today might prevent a major crisis tomorrow. Furthermore, allowing others to help you is actually a gift to them. Most people feel good when they can contribute something meaningful to someone they care about. By accepting their assistance gracefully, you're providing them with an opportunity to feel useful, needed, and connected. Your stubborn independence might actually be depriving them of a chance to express their love and concern for you. The fear of being a burden is understandable, but often exaggerated. The difference between being a burden and being someone who occasionally needs support is largely about attitude and reciprocity. People become burdens when they expect others to solve all their problems without gratitude, or when they refuse to help themselves. But when you maintain your dignity, express appreciation, and contribute what you can to relationships and communities, occasional requests for assistance are normal and healthy parts of human interaction. As you navigate these realizations, remember that it's never too late to change course. The habits, expectations, and patterns that have governed your life for decades aren't permanent fixtures. They're choices that you can revisit and revise. The first step is recognizing which patterns are serving you and which are holding you back. The second step is having the courage to let go of what's no longer working, even if it feels familiar and safe. Change after 60 isn't about reinventing yourself completely. It's about becoming more authentically yourself than you've ever been. It's about shedding the layers of expectation, obligation, and pretense that have accumulated over the years and reconnecting with your core values, desires, and interests. It's about finally giving yourself permission to live according to your own priorities rather than everyone else's. This process requires both courage and compassion, courage to make difficult changes, and compassion for yourself as you navigate the discomfort that change inevitably brings. You'll probably make mistakes, face resistance from people who preferred the old version of you, and experience moments of doubt about whether you're doing the right thing. That's normal and doesn't mean you should turn back. The goal isn't perfection, it's authenticity. The goal isn't to please everyone, it's to find peace with yourself. The goal isn't to accumulate more, it's to appreciate what you have. The goal isn't to prove anything to anyone, it's to live in alignment with your values and to extract as much joy, meaning, and connection as possible from whatever time you have remaining. Think about the concept of legacy for a moment. Most people worry about what they'll leave behind when they're gone, but they forget about the legacy they're creating for themselves right now. Every day you spend trying to please people who don't truly value you, every hour you waste maintaining possessions that don't bring you joy, every moment you sacrifice your authenticity for the approval of others. These choices create a legacy of regret, exhaustion, and unfulfilled potential. But it doesn't have to be this way. You have the power to create a different legacy starting today. You can choose to be remembered as someone who lived boldly and authentically in their later years, someone who prioritized relationships over possessions, experiences over expectations, and personal peace over public approval. This isn't about being selfish or inconsiderate. It's about finally honoring the person you were meant to be all along. Consider the profound freedom that comes with accepting mortality. This might sound morbid, but it's actually incredibly liberating. When you truly accept that your time is finite, that none of us gets out of here alive, it becomes much easier to prioritize what actually matters. The opinion of acquaintances becomes less important than the love of true friends. The accumulation of status symbols becomes less appealing than the accumulation of meaningful experiences. The pursuit of perfection becomes less urgent than the pursuit of presence. Many people spend their entire lives postponing joy, waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right level of achievement before they allow themselves to truly enjoy life. They tell themselves they'll travel when they retire, they'll pursue their hobbies when they have more time. They'll express their true feelings when the situation is perfect. But what if that perfect moment never comes? What if waiting for ideal circumstances means missing out on the beautiful imperfection of real life? The truth is that there will never be a perfect time for anything. There will always be responsibilities, concerns and reasons to postpone what brings you joy. The question is, how much of your life are you willing to sacrifice on the altar of someday? How many sunsets will you miss because you're too busy organizing closets? How many conversations will you avoid because you're afraid of conflict? How many adventures will you postpone because you're waiting for better weather, better health, or better finances? Let's talk about the specific ways these realizations can transform your daily experience. When you stop trying to maintain a perfect home, for visitors who rarely come, you can finally use your good china, wear your nice clothes and enjoy your space for yourself. When you stop accumulating possessions to fill emotional voids, you can appreciate what you already have and find contentment in simplicity. When you stop holding grudges, you free up mental and emotional energy for creativity, curiosity, and connection. The transformation isn't just internal, it affects your relationships in profound ways. When you stop trying to please everyone, the people who truly care about you feel more connected to the real you. When you establish boundaries with toxic people, you create space for healthier relationships to flourish. When you ask for help when you need it, you allow others to feel useful and valued, strengthening your bonds with them. Your relationship with time itself changes when you embrace these shifts. Instead of feeling like time is your enemy, racing against the clock to accomplish everything on some imaginary checklist, you begin to experience time as a gift. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice presence, to notice beauty, to express love, and to create meaning. The pressure to be productive every moment gives way to the wisdom of simply being alive and aware. The physical benefits of these changes are significant as well. When you reduce stress by letting go of perfectionism and people-pleasing, your body responds with better sleep, improved digestion, and increased energy. When you prioritize self-care and rest, you actually become more capable of enjoying activities and relationships. When you release resentment and anger, you literally lower your blood pressure and reduce inflammation in your body. But perhaps the most profound change is in your relationship with yourself. For decades, you may have been your own harshest critic, constantly judging your appearance, your achievements, your choices, and your worth. This internal dialogue of self-criticism is exhausting and destructive, creating a constant background noise of dissatisfaction and anxiety. Learning to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would show a dear friend is one of the most healing practices you can develop. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or accepting mediocrity. It means acknowledging your humanity, celebrating your growth, and treating your mistakes as learning opportunities rather than evidence of your inadequacy. The role of gratitude in this transformation cannot be overstated. When you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, from what went wrong to what went right, from what you've lost to what you've gained, your entire perspective changes. Gratitude isn't about pretending that everything is perfect or denying real problems. It's about recognizing the gifts that exist alongside the challenges. Every morning you wake up is a gift that millions of people didn't receive. Every friendship that has survived decades of change is a treasure. Every skill you've developed, every lesson you've learned, every challenge you've overcome has contributed to the unique person you are today. These aren't small things, they're the substance of a life well lived. The creative potential that emerges when you release these burdens is extraordinary. When you're no longer exhausted by trying to control other people's opinions, you have energy for artistic expression, intellectual exploration, and spiritual growth. When you're not overwhelmed by possessions, you have space for new interests and activities. When you're not consumed by resentment, you can see possibilities that were previously obscured by anger. Many people discover new talents, interests, and passions in their 60s and beyond, simply because they finally have the freedom to explore, without worrying about practical outcomes or other people's expectations. This is the time to paint badly and enjoy it, to sing off-key without embarrassment, to write poetry that no one else will read, to dance in your living room just because the music moves you. The impact on your family relationships can be particularly profound. When you stop trying to control your adult children's choices and instead offer support without judgment, your relationships with them often improve dramatically. When you stop trying to be the perfect grandparent and instead show up authentically, your grandchildren get to know the real you. When you stop carrying old family resentments, you can create new patterns of interaction based on who everyone is now rather than who they were decades ago. Your friendships too can deepen and become more meaningful when you're willing to be vulnerable, to admit your struggles, and to ask for support. The superficial connections that are based on maintaining appearances often fade away, but the genuine relationships become stronger and more satisfying. Consider also the broader impact of your choices on your community and society. When you live authentically and refuse to participate in systems that don't serve you, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage to be different, to prioritize what matters and to reject empty conventions can inspire others to examine their own lives and make positive changes. The economic implications of these shifts are worth considering as well. When you stop trying to keep up with others through material accumulation, you often discover that you need less money than you thought to be happy. This can reduce financial stress and provide more flexibility in how you spend your time. When you prioritize experiences over possessions, you often find that the most meaningful activities, spending time in nature, having deep conversations, creating art, volunteering, for causes you care about, cost very little. The spiritual dimension of this transformation varies from person to person, but many find that releasing ego-driven concerns opens space for deeper questions about meaning, purpose, and connection. Whether this takes the form of traditional religious practice, meditation, nature appreciation, or simply a greater sense of wonder about existence, the spiritual benefits can be profound and comforting. It's important to acknowledge that making these changes isn't always easy or comfortable. You may face resistance from family members who prefer the old version of you, who benefited from your people-pleasing tendencies, or who feel threatened by your newfound boundaries. Some friends may drift away when you're no longer available to listen to their complaints without reciprocal support. Some social situations may become uncomfortable when you refuse to participate in gossip or negative conversations. This resistance is normal and doesn't mean you're making the wrong choices. Change is unsettling for everyone, including the people around you. Some will adjust and even appreciate the more authentic version of you, while others may choose to maintain distance. This natural sorting process, while sometimes painful, ultimately serves everyone involved. The key is to remain compassionate toward others while staying firm in your commitments to yourself. You can acknowledge their discomfort without taking responsibility for fixing it. You can express love for people while declining to participate in dynamics that drain your energy. You can be understanding of their perspective while maintaining your boundaries. Remember that this isn't about perfection or dramatic overnight transformation. Small, consistent changes in how you respond to situations, how you spend your time, and how you treat yourself can create significant shifts over time. You might start by saying no to one obligation that doesn't align with your values, or by spending 10 minutes each morning in quiet reflection, or by clearing out one drawer of items you no longer need. The goal is progress, not perfection. Every step toward authenticity, every boundary you establish, every moment of presence you create adds to your overall well-being and life satisfaction. You're not trying to become someone new, you're trying to become more fully yourself than you've ever been. Your life after 60 can be the most liberated, peaceful, and fulfilling period you've ever experienced, but only if you're willing to release the burdens that no longer serve you. The choice is yours and the time is now. Every day you wait is another day of potential joy, peace, and authenticity that you're postponing. You've earned the right to live on your own terms. The question is, will you claim that right?